Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build will be the low life Earthquake Werebear. We'll still be using Boulder's Wrath to proc Earthquake every time we do a charge, which will be about every 2 seconds. And then we will also be running the crows with this build so that we can have them give us more int, so we have more ward retention as a low life build. And they will also be giving us ward every 4 seconds so that we can stack even higher than we normally would, since we don't get ward on hit. With this, we'll be stacking basically just life. You don't have to worry about resistances too much, although they do help. You do want to hit 100% critical strike avoidance, but again, not something that you have to make this build even work in empowered and high corruption. And then the other aspect of it that we'll have is the reason we're going low life is you want the Berserker buff so that you do 100% more melee damage while having 30% additional damage reduction, which is huge for the build. Alright, the crows will also be giving you a buff called Aspect of the Crow, which will give you an added 3 melee lightning damage, so that Earthquake will hit just a little bit harder the more stacks of that you have. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how all of this works. For skills, I'm running Earthquake, Werebear Form, Summon Storm Crows, Ice Thorns, and Summon Wolf. So for Earthquake, we have this set up because we don't care about cooldowns or mana cost or anything like that. It's all proc. We have it set up to do as much damage as possible, hit as many times as possible, and we got rid of all the aftershocks. So we've got 5 points in Rupture for initial hit damage, another 75% more damage boost. 1 point in Seismic Smash gets rid of all the aftershock damage and turns it into initial hit damage. 1 point in Seismic Tide makes it so the initial hit occurs 3 times. This gives it a cooldown and added mana cost, but both of those are bypassed by proccing this with Boulder's Wrath, so that's very good. Then we've got 3 points in Crushing Wake, so that we have more aftershock damage, which is converted into initial hit damage. 2 points in Concussion, so there's more initial hit damage. 3 points in Outbreak, so we hit in a huge area. This is the largest area that you can get with it. And then 5 points in Shatterquake, so that we do 150% more damage against chilled or frozen enemies. And this is why we'll want some chill on hit, which you can get through the passive, so that by the second, third hit, it should be doing more damage. Then for Werebear Form, we are no longer using this to do Entangling Roots, because Entangling Roots now cost its mana cost, and that is not affected by mana efficiency inside of this skill tree or by anything inside of Werebear Form. So it's very expensive, and a few casts of it's going to knock you out of Werebear Form. So we're no longer using that, but what we are still using is the 100% more damage against stunned enemies, as well as getting more crit chance from spell damage and more melee damage from spell damage. So we got 4 points in Ursane Heart. While we're in Werebear Form, we have 20% increased armor, as well as 200 flat armor. 1 point in Wizened Claws means that all spell damage gives us increased melee damage, and all spell damage gives us increased critical strike chance. Now that's just straight up spell damage, not adaptive spell damage. It's just straight up % increased spell damage, which you can get on a lot of your item slots, but it is not fire damage, it is not lightning damage. It's not a specific type of element. It is just the generic % increased spell damage only. Then I've got 3 points in Pummel for more melee physical damage added to your attacks when you're in Werebear Form. It's doubled for Ravage, but we won't be using Ravage. 1 point in Bash gives you more stun chance. 2 points in Skull Crush. You'll have 100% more hit damage against stunned enemies while you are in Werebear Form. This is huge because Earthquake hits so hard that the first or second hit are likely to stun it, meaning that the third hit will do an additional 100% more damage. Then we've got 4 points in Rip and Tear. Since we're always going to be charging, that's going to be the main way that we attack. This will give us 100% increased damage and 100% increased crit chance. 1 point in Unnerving Blow refunds mana if you swipe. You don't need this, but do be warned, if you face Lagon, charge does not work, so you'll have to do something else. More than likely, you'll have to leave Werebear Form and just manually use Earthquake and kind of, work with the mana costs that way. So again, you don't need this point here really if you don't ever use swipe. Occasionally I would use swipe, but we don't even have the skill tree proc, so feel free to remove this point and put it somewhere else, such as Ursane Heart. And then 3 points in Hightail reduces the cooldown of charge by 150% so that you can charge every 2 seconds instead of 4 or 5 or whatever the default is. Now with the way the skill tree is set up here, you can be in charge forever, or in Werebear form forever, as long as you only charge. So when you charge, it costs 0 mana. If you put a point in Overwhelm, which guarantees you to get a stun, it adds a 10 mana cost, so you don't want to do that. However, if you don't care if you come out of Werebear form, because you can just stay out of Werebear form for a little bit, get your mana back, and then go back in, you can get a guaranteed stun, but like I said, Earthquake is going to have such a high chance to stun anyways for that extra damage. There's no point in it. Plus, keeping charge as a 0 mana costing skill means you literally never have to leave Werebear form unless you need to resummon your crows. Speaking of crows, we have summoned storm crows. These crows are set up so that they give us a bunch of ward and aspect of the crow buffs. So we've got 1 point in Avis, 3 points in aspect of the crow, means that every attack or heal or anything that the crows do has a 30% chance on hit to give us an aspect of the crow buff for 8 seconds, which will give us melee added lightning damage, 3 per stack. It stacks unlimitedly, which will just increase the amount of damage that Earthquake does, especially when you get to 6-10 stacks of it. We got 1 point in Wisdom of the Storm. We've got 5 points in Ornithology. This is the big one. We have 3 crows, so this will give us 30 points of Intelligence, which is going to bring our ward retention up to about 120% just from these, which is really going to help how much ward that we have. Then we got 1 point in Navigator, 1 point in Good Berries, 1 point in Winds of Restoration, and 4 points in Silver Berries, so that every 4 seconds, once we put the 3 points in Forager for the cooldown recovery speed, every 4 seconds our 3 crows will heal us for 300 ward. This stacks with minion healing effectiveness, not your healing effectiveness. It has to be minion healing effectiveness. It does stack, so you can get 4, 5, 600, even more if you stack even more. In this build, we're getting about 500 ward per heal from 3 crows every 4 seconds, so it just gives us a nice extra boost of ward. For Ice Thorns, we have this set up to proc when we get hit. So we've got 3 points in Dagger Thorns, 2 points in Bramble Armor, and 4 points in Spell Thorns. Between these two, there's a 40% chance every time that we get hit that it will proc the Ice Thorns. Then we have 1 point in Anim Affiliate, 1 point in Thorn Shield. This will make it so that when Ice Thorns is procced when you get hit, that it will create a shield around you for 1 second, giving you 40 flat armor, and then it will disperse outwards and do damage. With 4 points in Bulb Shield, you'll have a 40% chance to recast on the proc chance. So you have a 40% chance to proc when you get hit, and then 40% chance on that it will cast twice. Then we got 2 points in Bark Shield to increase that armor from 40 to an 80 total, and 3 points in Eternal Protection makes it last instead of 1 second shield. You have 1.9 second shield of that additional armor before it does its attack. And then for Summon Wolf, I'm not even going to go over it, but the only point you need is the 1 point in Pack Hunters so that we can get the 3rd crow. If you want to specialize in something else, say you want to run totems instead or something like that, you can get rid of it, but you will only have 2 crows, which means less int and less ward being healed to you, because you'll only get 2 birds healing you every 4 seconds instead of 3. For the Primalist class, I've got 25 points in the base. We've got 1 point in Primal Strength, 8 points in Natural Attunement, 6 points in Gift of the Wilderness, 5 points in Hunter's Restoration, and then most importantly, the 5 points in Berserker for that 100% more melee damage and 30% less damage taken at all times. Then we've got 16 points in the Shaman, 8 points in Shamanic Infusion, and 8 points in Tempest Form. This gives us a lot of flat health. It also gives us 40% chance to chill on hit, which is what's going to allow us to get that 150% multiplier inside of Earthquake. Now you must put at least 10 points in here to make sure that you unlock Earthquake. Then we've got 17 points in the Beastmaster. These are points you don't have to put in here, so these are the very last points I would put into the build. We have it set up for a lot of damage reduction and for aspect of the shark. So we've got 8 points in Ursane Strength, so we take 16% less damage from nearby enemies. It also gives us 8 strength, which is 32% increased damage for Earthquake. We've got 5 points in Boar Heart, so when we do take a melee hit, we'll gain aspect of the boar for 5 seconds, and then with 2 points in Porcine Constitution, we get a total of 21% damage reduction from it. 1 point in Savagery and 1 point in Ambush, so that we have aspect of the shark granted for 3 seconds every 5 seconds when we do a melee attack, which is what Earthquake is. And then we've got 53 points in our Master Druid class with 1 point in Bark Skin, 8 points in Soul's Attendant, 8 points in Wood Laurel, 8 points in Spirit Claws, 10 points in Ursane Claws, 10 points in Hide Skin, and 8 points in Ursane Maul. For items and idols, so there are 3 uniques that you need. You need Boldar's Wrath. This can be captured by doing the Spirits of Fire timeline. It does not have to be empowered, but you do have to beat the boss, and it has an 85% drop rate, so it may take you more than 1 try to get it. We then have Enzanguis. Enzanguis is a random drop in game. It does not gamble. It's not a specific boss. In order to get this, you just have to keep killing stuff and hope that it drops for you. I get most of mine from leveling new characters. Between levels 23 and 50, one drops probably 33% of the time on a new character that I run through there. I found like 5 of them on the 1 to 75 leveling guides that I did. And then of course we have the last steps of the living. This can be farmed from Forsumos on the Blood, Death, and whatever timeline, the level 70 timeline. It does not have to be empowered, however, it does only have like a 14% drop rate, which means you may be farming it 10-20 times. Then for the crafted items, we have a helm which has increased cooldown recovery, minion health regen, flat health, and increased health. On the helm, the belt, and the relic, make sure that you get minion health regen. Your crows will die like crazy until you start getting some high amounts of minion health regen. On this, we have a tier 3. We also got a tier 5 on the belt and the relic. That's what we were doing on stream all day yesterday, was finding those parts, because as soon as we hit a total of about 12 to 15 tiers with that minion health regen total between those 3 pieces, the crows just stopped dying even in our empowered content. So it was really nice. We never had to leave Werebear Form at that point, and we were always getting the ward. For the relic, we have fire damage, critical strike chance, flat health, and lightning resist. For the ring, we're wearing an ivory ring with that ward retention and necrotic resist. It comes with int, spell damage, health, and some critical strike avoidance. The belt has mana regen, which you don't need, but we got tier 4 minion health regen, and then we got tier 5 health and hybrid health, which was really nice. And then for the other ring, we have a coral ring for the vitality. We don't really like the health regen, but it's not a big deal to us. The vitality, though, is 50 flat health, which is really nice. And then we have intelligence, healing effectiveness, which you don't want healing effectiveness. You want minion healing effectiveness. So just ignore that. You can put something else there. And then we have flat health and critical strike avoidance. This ring's really not that good, but we didn't find another one in the time that we had. And then for the Mighty Crusader gauntlets, we have int, strength, hybrid health, and physical resist. And then for the relic, tier 5 minion health regen, some critical strike multiplier. We don't want the endurance, but we also got a lot of flat health. For idols, you basically just want health. Lots and lots of health. The more health you have, the higher your survivability goes, which is really nice. And then I also put in a little bit of critical strike avoidance here. We need a lot more. I don't have 100%, but critical strike avoidance would be really nice for the build. For the character sheet, you can see we don't have capped resistances. We have about 80% ward retention. This, of course, goes up if I summon out my crows. Suddenly, we jump up to 199% ward retention, which is going to allow us to stack a lot more ward. You can see for offense, we don't really have much in terms of damage. We have some melee, we have some critical strike multiplier, we have some fire. Most of that's going to just be the fact that Earthquake just hits so hard, and you have a lot of flat damage with Boldar's Wrath. Now, if I exit the character sheet, you will notice that just standing here in place, we had about 3,000 ward before. But now that we have the int from the crows, and the crows healing us for the ward, we have about 6,000. And as you stack some minion healing effectiveness, that amount can go up. We put on a couple of idols on stream and tested it, and with about 200% total minion healing effectiveness, we were jumping up well past 8,000 ward. So it's incredible the amount of ward that you can actually get from it. And then when we go in Werebear Form, you'll notice that we get even more health, which is going to help it go up. And then for our damage types, you gain quite a bit of melee damage. When we do an attack, we'll gain aspect of the shark, which will be even a little bit more. And of course, all you do, or all I do, is I just put charge on autocast. That's literally all you have to do. The crows will just follow you around and keep healing you. They'll also give you these aspect of the crow buffs, so you have that melee damage. But I like to put charge on auto cast, you could just hold down the button if you want, and then you charge in, and boom, you get your hits. We're critting here for up to 250,000 damage, which is pretty huge for the build. Again, this is kind of a, I won't say broken mechanic, it's working like it's supposed to, but I strongly think that this will, we all thought it would get nerfed well before the last patch. We thought then it would get nerfed at the patch, and somehow it's still in the game. So enjoy it while you can. It does make it nice to farm stuff for other characters. It just absolutely speed runs and flies through the map. You're obviously just charging from enemy to enemy, and they're just dying instantly to this huge AoE and massive damage from Earthquake. And we just had a 350,000 damage hit. So if you get things all stacked correctly and everything's timed right and you have enough stacks of Aspect of the Crow, it can hit really hard. And again, this isn't min-maxed. We don't even have any exalted items. You can get a lot more health. You can get your critical strike avoidance, get the right blessings. It can be much better, but it's in a spot where it's already OP. And that's going to be it for this build guide. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, stay safe and enjoy some gameplay.